from the nuclear power groups. We're going to hear from the pros first. Please give up your hand.
In Virginia, 46% of our energy is derived from nuclear power. Nuclear power is the electricity used generated through the use of nuclear power plant. Without nuclear power, millions would be powerless. America and many other countries today depend on some form of electricity to supply all of their appliances with full electricity. With nuclear power being the second largest leading energy producer behind coal, it is highly dependent on. According to the Nuclear World Association, the U.S. alone, the world's largest nuclear energy producer, accounts for more than 30% of worldwide output. There are some cons to nuclear power, but there are many pros. Those pros being, it helps the economy, it's environmentally friendly, and it's very efficient.
The production of nuclear energy first came about in 1934, but was not officially accepted until 1938, when Otto Hahn and Franz Strassmann successfully split an uranium atom. Because the technology was developed on the brink of World War II, most development was focused on the Manhattan Project. Although once the bombs were dropped and the war was over, development transitioned into power production. With this came high cost, deadly nuclear waste, and devastating nuclear accidents.
Nuclear power provides a major it's so good for America because in today's often bad economy, it provides a huge boost for the economy. According to the Nuclear Energy Institute, and the average nuclear power plant provides $470 million for the economy and $35 million in labor income. Labor income goes to the power plant workers. The average nuclear power plant is a $6 to $8 billion investment. At the peak of construction, the average nuclear power plant creates around 3,500 jobs. It also boosts the local economy and local businesses like concrete, piping, and steel because tons and tons of pounds of those materials are needed to create a nuclear power plant. Nuclear power is the future of America, and it's great for the local economy and national economy.
Even though nuclear power is cost efficient, the factors that go into manufacturing and maintaining a nuclear power plant are very expensive. When constructing a nuclear power plant, you need approximately 1,100 acres of land to build on. Next, the reactors to physically produce the energy must be purchased at over $100 billion each. Once the plant is in commission, the owner must purchase accident insurance on each of its workers and the max amount of coverage on each reactor they own, which averages at about $300 million per reactor. When a reactor gets worn out, it must be decommissioned. And finally, the radioactive waste produced by nuclear power plants must be stored until it reaches environmentally safe levels. The U.S., for example, is in the process of using Yucca Mountain in Nevada as a storage site, which could potentially cost up to as much as $58 billion total.
Nuclear power was responsible for nearly half of the total voluntary reductions in greenhouse gas emissions reported by U.S. companies in 1998. Nuclear power helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions and can help local regions reach the regulatory standards. Nuclear power is a positive technological advancement on the world because it does not produce greenhouse gas emissions and it can produce large amounts of energy in a short amount of time. According to Kenneth Wester of the Community Science Action Guides, nuclear power is one of the largest sources of electricity that does not emit any air pollution and can produce energy around the clock. There are no adverse effects to land, water, habitat, species, or air in the use of nuclear power. That is why nuclear power is a positive technological advancement on the world.
Although nuclear power does not produce any air pollution, it does produce radioactive waste. Radioactive waste is the material left over from splitting an isotope's atom to create nuclear energy. There are two different levels of radioactive waste, low level and high level. Low level waste is usually stored in marked landfills or dumped in the oceans because the storage is of no concern. High level radioactive waste needs to be put in steel containers because it needs to wait for radioactive decay to occur. Radioactive decay can take from days to billions of years until the isotope reaches its half-life. Once the isotope is completely decayed, it can safely be released into the environment. If high-level radiation leaks out of the steel containers due from damage to the containers by earthquakes or other natural forces, it can cause cancer or even radiation sickness to the public. Radiation sickness has symptoms of burns, bleeding, and hair loss. Overall, radioactive waste can do damage to the environment as well as its population.
In 2011, the USA's 104 nuclear reactors produced 1,892 megawatts of energy. That is a total of 19% of electrical output. Because over 30% of Americans depend on nuclear power for their energy, it is at a high demand. Now there are 100 units operable and 5 under construction. For example, the Louisa County area, along with surrounding counties, including Orange, Greene, and Madison, depend on nuclear power for their energy. Here we have the Lake Anna Nuclear Power Plant. According to the Nuclear World Association, according to Dominion for North Anna, the Lake Anna Nuclear Power Plant produces 1,892 megawatts of electricity with their 2 units. That is enough electricity to power 450,000 homes with full electricity.
Many people tend to overlook nuclear accidents because they are rare, but the devastating short and long-term damages they cause should not be ignored. Nuclear meltdowns occur when the cooling units inside of reactors fail or malfunction, causing internal temperatures to peak. When this happens, huge amounts of radiation are released into the surrounding area. This area can cover hundreds of miles, last for centuries, and causes serious damage to any living things in the area. Although multiple nuclear incidents have occurred, most of them were minor. However, 3 were not. These are 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, and Chernobyl. Chernobyl, possibly the worst nuclear incident in history, caused the deaths of more than 20,000 people, led to more than hundreds of miles of evacuations, and caused almost $500 million in damages. The radiation that plagued Chernobyl continues to stay there today.
There are 3 major reasons why nuclear power is so good for America. Number 1, it's better than the other sources of energy. According to the World Bank record, 760,000 people in China have died from prematurely from the effects of air and water pollution. Nuclear power, however, in America provides 64% of carbon-free emissions, which do not help produce smog, which is killing 750,000 people in China. Number 2, it's great for the environment. According to the Canadian Nuclear Association, nuclear energy has a huge environmental benefit, and it does not help create urban smog, global warming, or acid rain. And number 3, it's great for the economy. It creates 3,500 jobs during construction and around 400 to 700 permanent jobs for every nuclear power plant. So nuclear power is the obvious solution for American energy of the future.
Overall, nuclear power produces radioactive waste, which is difficult to store and can cause cancer and radioactive sickness to the population. It also costs an enormous amount of money to build the nuclear power plant itself. It may be cost efficient to produce the energy, but it costs billions of dollars to build and ensure all the reactors inside the nuclear power plant. Finally, there have been several nuclear accidents around the world. Chernobyl, for example, was a nuclear meltdown that occurred in 1986, where over 20,000 people died of radiation emitted from the nuclear power plant.